Let me ask you about this. This is an interesting thing. They go to all this time and expense to try and prove Joe McCarthy committed perjury.
Right.
They dispatch these congressional investigators to Wheeling. They collect all the evidence.
Yep.
Some of it is, hey, guess what? He didn't commit perjury.
Correct.
He said what he said, this report isn't in official repositories in the government?
It is.
I
finally found it. It took me a long time. I called the archives. All of these congressional committees, this is more inside baseball, but the way they work. There is an archive for every committee where the backup files and documents and so forth are stored after the fact. A lot of these documents have disappeared from the archives. That's another issue. I called the archives and asked if this report was in the archive of the Gillette Committee. I'm not going to criticize them for this. And they went and looked and said, no, it isn't. And so I thought that it had disappeared from that archive. But it didn't. It's there. I went through every box in the Gillette Committee archive. There are 21 boxes on McCarthy, negative stuff on McCarthy in the Gillette Committee archives, and it was not filed in the right place. We just misfiled.
You had to personally comb through it to find it, and it was there.
Oh, I've combed through all. You've got to comb through everything to find it, and nobody's going to hand it to you. I mean, they weren't misrepresenting. They just went and looked at the box where it was supposed to have been. And the way it works is just absolutely innocent in this case. There are other cases that are not so innocent. But in this case, I'm pretty sure it was, the boxes run consecutively through, I forget whether it's alphabetically or chronologically, I can't remember now. But the report by index should have been at the end of one box, and it wasn't, but it was in the beginning of the next box. It fell between the two, and it was said to be in one box and it was in another box. That's the way I found it.
So their strategy to destroy McCarthy, largely based on the idea that he committed perjury.
That was one, a myriad charges, but it's the main one. That if you look at any book, if you look at the standard biographies of McCarthy, or any treatment of the era, they will have this quote saying he claimed to have 205 communists, less than 205 communists, and he was lying. That's what the Tidings Committee said. And the Tidings Committee, remember, issued its report before this investigation happened.
It's a Democratic investigators dispatched by a Democratic Congress. They get the evidence to actually exonerate McCarthy.
Correct.
But given the fact, as you said earlier, Stan, that this speech was actually recorded by a local radio station and broadcast. It was erased.
It was erased.
So they couldn't just go and find the tape.
No.
There isn't any tape.
That's correct, and I'm glad you bring that up. They looked for the tape. They went to what they did, and there are two parts to the answer to this. They tried to check with the station, WWVA, said the tape had been erased. It was just, routine, either the next day or a few days after the broadcast. So no tape. So then they got depositions from two station officials saying, yeah, we don't have a tape, but we followed the text as McCarthy spoke, and he read it verbatim. I mean, the 205. And that's in the Tidings used that. It's in the books. It's in all the biographies. It's in the Tidings report that this proved McCarthy was lying because these two officials swore that he read it verbatim.
These two radio station guys.
Yes. And, well, it turned out that these depositions were prepared and obtained by the State Department from these people and handed to Tidings. He had nothing to do with it. It was all State Department concocted stuff. So that's the first part of the answer.